Hello, welcome to day 6 of Advent of Code, eventually. That is to say, the video has started, but we'll give it a minute for show up. I don't know, like, I feel like this might be the worst time to stream Advent of Code, is when, like, the people who are interested in it want to be busy solving it. But I don't know, I think that the number of people who are, well, there's like people who are competing for leaderboard points, which has got to be a pretty small percentage of people because, like, I mean, look at this. Obviously, yes, there are people here, but how do you even find out how long it took? I guess you look at stats? Morning, Mark. Yeah, so if I look at, can I look at stats of day 2? No, I can't. So I don't know, like, how fast. Can I look at, like, a person who's, like, winning and see how they're doing? No, this just links to the thing. So I can't see how fast you have to solve a puzzle if you want to be first on the leaderboard. Obviously, that's never going to happen to me. I feel like in year 1, I did get a couple leaderboard points. Let's find that out, actually. 2015, please. I mean, I wasn't in the top 100, obviously. My own personal stats? Okay, no, I didn't. 2016? Any of these years? Did I ever get any points? Yeah, look at that, see? Leaderboard points. Day 2 of 2016. The apex of my achievement. The acme of my magnificence. And no way after 2017, right? Yeah. Okay. These are years I didn't even finish. Okay, but anyway, the point is, I was just musing about, like, the people who are interested in Advent of Code are busy at the time that Advent of Code comes out, so why do I stream it at that hour? I don't know, because I'm interested, and I want to do it, and I want to stream it, and, like, you know, that's life. As we often do, before we start on day 6, I want to review the previous day, which in this case is day 5. So let's review. Well, I don't know. Let's maybe compare, because I didn't like yesterday's solution at all. I mentioned at some point when I was on the when I was watching, or when I was recording. Do I really want to look at the whole thing at once? I guess it's fine. And, like, the main problem that I had with this was import lines is a monster of a function. And it does so much. I also didn't like my orientation type because it, like, as I mentioned, it kind of threw away information about, like, knowing which one is the start, which one is the end. And, like, you know, okay, yes, we know horizontal lines are horizontal, but you have to, like, do that math in your head. There's no proof in the type system that it's true of a given line that it's horizontal if you just get back a result. It's kind of like violating the parse don't validate rule, right? So those were some things about it that I did not like. And my brain was kind of fried yesterday, and I didn't think about what is kind of the most obvious possible solution to this problem. Which is, at some point, you just need, where is it? You need this points on line function, right? This is the heart of what they asked for yesterday. It's given a, you know what? I don't think we should review this all at once, because I did two kind of important things. Let's look at this function, this diff first. I split them up on purpose so I could show them to you separately. And so what I did was I said, look, we just want a function that takes a line and tells you what points are on that line. And then you could, like, flat map that over the input, and you get, like, a list of all the points once for each time they're visited, and you can just, like, count duplicates, right? Which is pretty cool. So so what I ended up with was this very simple function, points on line, that does almost everything the old import lines function. but just like in a way better way. And then there's this import lines function, which does just a tiny bit of what was left. Right, and so points on line takes a line and produces a list of all the points that were on it. And it works, you know, for lines of any orientation, rather than being special case for vertical and horizontal, and then like having a different thing for diagonal. It just says like, you know, figure out how long the line is by finding the maximum absolute value of the differences in coordinates, and then compute dx and dy, which is like the direction of that difference, and defines this move function and adds, and like you iterate move. And then import lines is just like, well, first start by mapping like points on line over each line, and then add them all to a map. And in this case, I also changed from like storing the list of points to like just storing how many there were, because we knew for sure that we don't know how many that we don't know. All we care about is how many there are. But I don't think that fundamentally simplified things much. And then, you know, count overlaps is this new function we need that just counts how many times there's more than one point line at a point. So this is sort of nice. It simplifies, and in fact, like, I feel like part 2 was easier than part 1 today, because it makes you think in terms of vertical and horizontal, which are these special cases, where the general case is just so much easier, right? Turning a line into a list of points is not hard. But the fact that you're saying, okay, we'll leave the hard version, diagonals, for later and just handle the easy ones, left me thinking about the wrong approach. So now import lines doesn't care about diagonal at all, and I just instead part 2 just imports the lines and counts the overlaps. Part 1 does the same thing, but first it throws away all the diagonal lines. And so I don't need this orientation type I hated anymore. You know, I don't love the diagonal function either, but not as heinous. And it just says a line is diagonal if the difference in x is the same as the difference in y. So cool, right? That's a nice improvement, and it does in fact work. And I end up not really needing a type for my grid thing because I only use a map once. So then I said, okay, but we can improve this more, right? And that is the most recent commit. And something that was bothering me in the version I just showed you is there's these two functions here, like, kind of suck. You have all this, like, you know, you have tuples that you're calling the same function on both halves, and then calling another function on the result that you got from doing that over both halves. It, like, kind of sucks, right? It makes it very, you know, you have x1s and x2s and y1s and y2s all over the place. It's very easy to make a mistake here. And a little bit hard to read. And I said, look, what if we just defined a new type? Instead of using a tuple of int, what if we gave it a real type? And in particular, if that type was guaranteed to have the same types for the x and y coordinates. A problem with tuples, as I've discussed before, which is great for tuples, but not great for our use case, is that the two types can have, the left and the right components of a tuple can have different types. And so a bunch of type classes only look at the right half of a tuple, whereas we often want to look at both in some uniform way. And so a new type, you know, we've defined 3 a number of times, or once maybe. We've defined 5, you know, in Advent of Code this year. Coord is basically 2, but, you know, we have an x and a y of type A. And that means we, you know, can get a functor instance and a foldable instance that applies to both components instead of just the second one. And it's applicative as well in the same way that all of our other zippy applicative types have been. And what it ends up meaning is, you know, this points on line function got longer, not shorter, but it's so much nicer, I think. You can just say, you can forget all the x's and y's completely and just work with coordinates as a whole. You say subtract the from the 2, and you get, like, the vector that is where it's going. And you can just say, what is the largest of the absolute values in this vector? And you get the length. And you can say, what is the sign of this vector? And you get like a tuple or a coordinate that is like the direction it's going, but with size 1. And then your move function is just add that unit vector to a point. And everything is just so much more obvious. I can't have made a mistake in this. Whereas this thing up here, there's so many x's and y's that are different, and you're adding and subtracting all over the place. You could easily make a mistake in there. So in the end, I'm actually reasonably happy with my new implementation for day 5. I think it's pretty good. I hated what I had at the end of day 5, but I like what I have now. I don't love it, but it's fine. All the functions are pretty simple, and they kind of say what they mean. Diagonal is a little bit weird. I don't know. But again, it avoids dealing with the x's and y's, which is, we say a line is diagonal if there are no dimensions where the direction, where the delta is 0. If there is not any 0 in the absolute values of the difference between to and from. There you go. So let's go have a look now. Where's my browser? You guys see it, but I don't. Here it is. Let's have a look at day 6. Day 6, Lanternfish. Oh, I've recently been playing. I mean, I finished recording it about a week ago, but we have a couple weeks more of episodes to go, I think. Outer Wilds, which features Lanternfish. No further spoilers. The seafloor is getting steeper. Maybe the Slakeys got carried this way? A massive school of glowing lanternfish swims past. They must spawn quickly to reach such large numbers. Maybe exponentially quickly? Seems unlikely, since if they actually could grow at exponential rate, they would be covering the Earth within a few months or something. You should model their growth rate to be sure. Although you know nothing about the specific species of lanternfish, you make some guesses about their attributes. Surely each lanternfish creates a new lanternfish once every 7 days. But this isn't necessarily synchronized between every lanternfish. One might have 2 days left until it creates another, while another might have 4. You can model each fish as a single number that represents the number of days until it creates a new fish. Furthermore, okay, this is like Fibonacci stuff. Furthermore, you reason, a new lanternfish would surely need slightly longer before it's capable of producing more lanternfish. 2 more days for its first cycle. I love that we can tell this just by guessing. That's how easy marine biology is. So, suppose you have a lanternfish with an internal timer value of 3. After 1 day it becomes 2, then 1, then 0. Oh, I was reading this number wrong and trying to understand the sense. I thought that said 0, but it says 6. After another day, it would reset to 6, and it would create a new one with an internal timer of 7. After another day, the first lanternfish would have an internal timer of 5, and the second would have an internal timer of 7. The lanternfish that creates a new fish resets the timer to 6, not 7, because 0 is included as a valid timer value. Yeah, we're going from 0 to 6. Okay. The new one starts with a value of 8, and doesn't start counting down until the next day. So we're at 0, and we make an 8 and set ourselves to 6, and then at the end of the day, they're still 6 and 8. Next day, they're 2 days separate, so 5 and 7. Okay? Realizing what you're trying to do, the submarine automatically produces a list of the ages of several hundred nearby lanternfish. Okay, these aren't actually the ages, though. It's their internal timers, which is like 7 minus their age, or 6 minus their age, or something. Simulating them produces as follows. Okay. How many would there be after 80 days? Okay, so this is very like Fibonacci, by the way. I remember when I was taking, I think, discrete mathematics, we kind of phrased a similar problem, and I think the classic is bunnies on an island, not lanternfish under sea. But if you say that, like, a bunny makes a new bunny every week, but new bunnies don't mature until a week later, so it takes them like 2 weeks to start making more bunnies or whatever. And you look at that, then like the number of mature bunnies is the Fibonacci number of n or whatever, something like that. And so this is the same thing, but with a different recurrence relation and obviously different base cases. But this seems very simple to do. If you are so foolish as to model an actual list of anglerfish, I bet that in 60 days, or 80 days rather, I bet they give you few enough that you can like fit, 80 anglerfish in memory, but that's a very foolish thing to do. Instead, you should just have like a map from timer to number of anglerfish at this value. And then you can easily compute the next day's stats from this day's stats, no problem. And so I assume day 2 is going to be like, oh, what if we went 1,000 days or something? It's like, oh no, now it's too big for the naive approach. Not that I think I didn't let you guys read while I was talking. Sorry, I got distracted. It's hard to keep track of my preview window and also my chat and also what I'm looking at. And so I forget if you guys aren't seeing what I'm looking at. Anyway, it's not that, like, there's anglerfish. They're doing Fibonacci stuff. You can go read it if you want. adventofcode.com/2021/day6. Anyway. It's not that complicated. So, let's just get to it. I don't think there's much to do. I guess I should get my input, though. So, let's head over to Bash. Oh, hang on. We're still on day 5. Obviously, we can use a regex to parse this, but it seems like so simple that why would you? I don't know. I guess because it's easy, right? And like I would have to look up how to split things using data list split or data list or something, right? Where is split on? I don't know. You can do it yourself with span and break, but that kind of sucks, so I won't. Import text regex applicative. And our input is a list of, I guess, just int. Well, but is it though? What if we defined a few type aliases? Type age is an int, and type... I mean, okay, so here's the thing. Here is the thing. I think I overuse type aliases. When like, yeah, okay, cool. You can say age is an int and count is an int, and that way you can give your function signatures that will make it obvious which int is which and so on, right? But it doesn't really help you from mixing up two function parameters. You might accidentally pass an age where you meant to pass a count and so on. So I really think like I should give these actual new types and let the compiler help me. So it's an age int and a count int. Let's also deriving num as well, so I can just add these things. Are you not going to suggest that I add, I guess I'll do it myself. Language, generalized new type deriving, please. Yeah, and since we've changed our input type, it says prepare has the wrong type, which is fine. So I actually want my input to be a list Or like, why a list? Why not have the input be a import data list data, no, int map, import qualified as m. And my input will be an m dot, is it map or int map? Int map, data int map. Okay, it's called int map. Oh, but let's use an ordinary map because I just made a new type. Now we'll get less efficient, we'll get worse performance than if we used int map, which is specialized for int. But I'll just have a map from age to count, and that'll be very clear. So, what I need is, let's say ages is a parser for the regex. So again, we'll define. Why am I putting it down here? Never do that. Oh yeah, I do. Sometimes I do. I don't know. Regex list of age. I guess it's not really an age; it's the opposite. But whatever. We'll count these. And type regex a is rechar a. This is the kind of thing that I would like put in a personal utilities library if I were a proficient enough Haskell programmer to do it. Ages equals, so my input is just like, let's import text regex applicative dot common decimal. Ages is a cons decimal. fmap age applied to cons a decimal onto, no, cons mapping a decimal onto, or map consing a decimal onto many of sim comma. This is like we're re-implementing set by, of course, decimal. So what is the type of ages? Like, did it work? I think it did. Didn't complain until it got to prepare. And so we now have a parser that produces a list of ages. And then we just need equal tilde of ages sim new line. Let's just throw away the new line by hand here instead of doing something reasonable. And once we've parsed that, we need to, that's a maybe, so we need from maybe empty list, and once we've done that, we need to m dot from list with plus of do input, okay, just call it S, is let's say that our age is this, and we'll just say pure of age 1. Import data maybe from maybe always forget this every time. Couldn't match list of age at line 29. Oh, I have to apply this to S, of course. What are you really upset about here? Tell me about it in GHCI where I can actually read the output. Line 25 is wrong because I did something wrong with this. Oh, I forgot the app here. Okay. And then it says no instance for ORed age. Well, you got me. There is no instance for ORed age, but there should be. Week ORed show. Okay. It all compiles. I don't know why it's highlighting this shit. This is obviously fine. I really don't understand my tooling at all. So I have a parser that turns my string input. Okay, so what I'd like to do then is just double check that, let's say we said, prepare of read file input.txt. And it says you have some at age 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Interestingly, none at age 0. Or 6. Both of which I think are valid. But the point is we got, in fact, and by the way, isn't it nice that we're using new type wrappers here? Because if I looked at this before, without them, I'd be like, oh, okay, yeah, 1 and 69. Now I remember which one is age and count. But now they're labeled, so that's nice. Okay. So, now we've parsed it. And we need, like... Well, we're going to use this input type quite a lot, but I don't like to call stuff input inside the bowels of my program, right? I only want input to live like for part 1 and part 2, basically, and prepare, obviously. So let's actually say it's a school of fish. How do you like that? And the type input equals school. So what we want is a function called step, let's say. Is a function from school to school. And step of S is I mean, we're basically going to create a completely new map from this. We won't be able to reuse any of the existing map because we're going to be changing all the keys, right? So I guess what we can do maps have a monoid instance, which is just like concatenating two maps, right? So I can just build separately the list of... No, I can't because there'll be overlap. No, there won't. Yeah, there will. There'll be some fishes who go from age 0 to 6, and some fishes who go from age 7 to 6. So I can't just generate them separately. I mean, I could just like create two maps, and is there like a merge with or something, maybe? Yeah, I don't want int map. But I guess it's fine. It should have the same API, right? So union with, yes, takes a combining function. All right. Union with plus of age s and birth s. I don't even need, they both have s in them. So aging born, let's say, where aging is m dot. So this is just going to be the fish. Yeah. So, well, m dot from list of. I'm just gonna write do. I hate writing list comprehensions. Old age comes from, this is their previous age, not the age at which they become old. Just take that from one to 6, 1 to 8. That's the oldest a fish is, right? Yeah. I'm leaving 0 out because I want to handle. I want to have born be the handling of fish that were age 0. So I will handle those separately. Let Emma. Oh, and here's something funny. Because our ages have a num instance, 1 to 8 is actually going to be producing a list of age, not a list of int. I guess kind of defeats some of the purpose of making it hard to mix these things up, but I think it should be okay, because if I try to use it as a key and it's not an age, then that'll break. Okay. Let amount equal m dot get. I'll cheat. And that takes the map first, am I right? Yes. S prev age pure of previous age minus 1. No, I don't need a, there we go. And amount. Really, I guess I could just inline this, right? And then I don't need a name for it. And then born is let num equals s dot get of 0 in. Why is it indenting funny? Why did it offer me this? Does it not recognize that I'm writing a let in? Is my file malformed some way that it couldn't tell? That's weird. In m dot from list of 6 num 8 num, right? I think that's about it. Does this still compile? Union with, you are correct. That's in M. Try again. No instance for enum age. Oh, okay, sure, that's fair. Well, actually, there you go. Now we're making it explicit that we're looking at ages 1 through 8. So it would have worked, except if I put in an enum instance as well, but I don't know. Actually, I would have to then turn on... I already have language generalized new type driving, but okay, whatever. So what is it then that we want as the end result of our program? After 1 day, there are 5 fish, and after 18 days, so we've stepped 18 times the total number of fish. Morning, Jonathan. So, part 1, I think, is pretty simple. It's going to produce an int, and we can just sum up the values, right? Sum composed with how many? It's just asking how many total there are, right? Yeah. Sum dot get number 80, which is having stepped 80 times, iterate step, right? Well, you're right. It doesn't give me an int, does it? It gives me a count int, or a count, which is fine. Great. So if we look in bash and we say stack run, like, do we get a number that looks okay? Nope. Error. Given key is not an element in the map. Oh, of course. Yes. Really? I'm a little surprised. It only has 1s, 2s, 3s, 4s, and 5s, just like the test input. There's no 0s, 6s, 7s, or 8s. Okay, so how do you look up in a map with default? Look up, find with default. We just have to replace that in both of these, I guess. Get k equals m dot find with default 0 of ks, and then we can just say get 0 get prev age, right? And it's a number. All right, I mean, I love numbers, as you well know. So let's see if this works. It does work. Great. Let's get that committed real quick before we move on to part 2, as I try to remember to do. So anything weird here that I don't want to add? I don't think so. It's all basically one big old file, but if there's anything here that I regret writing, now's my time to take it back. Ages kind of sucks a little bit. But it's fine. Yeah, this all looks good to me. Git add of the input text as well. Git commit -m day 6 part 1. Well, you can always. Jonathan remarks in the chat that they forgot to add commit part 1. You can always go back in time, although I guess it's kind of hard if you don't have a. Yeah, never mind. If you've committed part 1 and part 2, it's usually pretty hard to reconstruct what part 1 was. In principle, I could do it because I have a video, but there's no way I'm going to look over that video evidence. All right, let's look back at the website to see what part 2 is. What if there were 256 days? So that should be easy, right? I predicted it would just be a larger number, right? And so maybe I could have preventatively added a nice little abstraction, but I didn't. So this shouldn't overflow GHC as either. Oh, I forgot to adjust the type. This takes a count. It returns a count as well now. This should fit in a GHC int. I assume. If oh damn it, yeah, you guys didn't see that. There you go. Sorry, I didn't do anything interesting. I just wrote this. So and then I did sac run and I got back a number. That's the right answer. Okay, yeah. So that was just like, I guess, to make sure you didn't model every single fish individually, which is exactly what I predicted would happen. But even if you did, it's like a pretty big number, isn't it? Like 300 something thousand. Yeah, I mean, sure, your answer fit in int64, but in Haskell, it's easy to do arbitrary precision as well, so I could have done that if I wanted to. But generally, yeah, Topaz doesn't make you deal with numbers that go above the limit of a 64-bit int, or even close to it, because he wants to make sure it's easy to do in languages with coarse numbers. Of course, every language has some way to get to big ints, but it like generally sucks, whereas Haskell's big ints are just easy. So, before we commit that, let's just, you can't do part 2, unfortunately. I wonder what that means. Is it impossible on your hardware? That seems unlikely. Do you just, like, have to go to bed? I wonder. So let's just do an, simulate takes, I guess, an int to account. Simulate... In theory, maybe you should take an age, but I think that's a little bit silly because it's not the age of a fish, but the age of the universe. Simulate num days? Are these days? Are they weeks? I don't even remember what the flavor for this is. It's days. There's nothing, I don't understand. There's nothing hard to do in... If you did part 1 in the way that I did it, then part 2 is like no particular difficulty. As long as you don't simulate every single anglerfish individually, then part 2 is not hard. If you did them individually, yes, you have to completely redo everything to do part 2. There's not, but like, no offense, but you should have seen that coming, I guess is my prediction, my assertion. So this is just, is sum dot take num dot iterate step. And then we can just say this is simulate 80, and this is simulate 2d6. Do I still get the same answers? No. Oh, I didn't. Days. Are those the same? Yeah, they look pretty close. Okay, so let's add this thing. Day 6, part 2. Do I have a private leaderboard? I participate in a number of private leaderboards. I guess there are enough people watching these that I could make a private leaderboard for people who want to like play along, I guess. I really don't like compete. But it's kind of cool to keep track of people who you view as like your friend group, and if people want to keep track of other viewers of the channel, I don't see any reason why they couldn't do it. I have a private leaderboard. Oh wow, this is an old one. I actually am on a private leaderboard. I'm on several, like from different friend groups I've had. This is like, who are these people? I'm trying to figure out. Maybe this is from a thing I posted on a work mailing list in like 2015, and like a couple people joined once. Anyway, only one other person is still participating, so I'm just going to delete this. How do I do that? if I take mine, I can obliterate. Yes, obliterate. And then I can create a private leaderboard. And let me open up the YouTube chat, which I'm kind of surprised I can't participate in that from OBS. I can see the chat from OBS, but I have no way, I think, to write chats, even though it's like linked to my YouTube account. I don't know. If I go to the like live control room here, here's the chat. So if anyone wants to join my leaderboard, it's right there. And I guess you can just like hang out there if you want. And I'll like there's interact on the web view of OBS. All right, what the fuck does that mean? What is the damn web view? I mean, I don't use Streamlabs OBS. I use just like vanilla OBS. I don't see a web view. There's like no such thing. I don't know what you're talking about, man. Tools, windows, like there's nothing here. Interact. Yeah, I see the chat, but I can't. There's no way to write in it. I see a chat. There's a controls menu. Yeah, I don't see anywhere that there's a web. I don't understand where that would be. It would be nice though to be able to interact from OBS instead. So maybe let me just look that up real quick. Oh, actually, I can also. Here, there you go. Now it's on screen if you want to type it in by hand. Oh yeah, in Twitch it's easy. YouTube just sucks for streaming, and yet here I am, right? OBS, YouTube, chat, interact. How to display YouTube chat. How do I use YouTube chat with OBS? You can display it. How do you... Like, I don't think you can do it. It's just unbelievable how bad YouTube is for streaming. But I don't really want to have a Twitch presence very badly, so here I am. Yeah, I've done a few Twitch streams in the past. Even some fairly recently. But like, I don't know, this interactive model is fun for an event like Advent of Code, but I don't want to do it regularly. I'd rather just like do my own thing and record. Anyway, so I have a private leaderboard now, if anyone wants to join that. Oh, hang on, I should maybe just in case not show off any of my other private leaderboards. I guess that page wasn't going to show any of them. So how do I look at my own leaderboard? There you go. Oh my gosh, we have 4 people already. Amazing. Yeah, so cool. Someone's just a hex number. Okay. I don't know if these numbers have any significance to you or okay, so I'll try to remember to put, well, it'll be easy to remember because I'm just reusing the description. I can put this in the video descriptions of the videos going forward in case anybody who hasn't done so yet wants. Anything else we should talk about today before we go? Let me see. Anything interesting going on in this implementation? Like, not really. We don't even have any partial functions. I guess, okay, that's not true. Indexing is partial. In principle, it could fail on a list that's too short, but we feed it an infinite list, so it's okay. And here, if the match fails, we return an empty list, so that's not partial. I guess read file is partial. There might be no file. Or it's a total function that returns an IO action that might fail. It is a hex number, isn't it? Did I read it wrong? Yeah. See? JFCE25. You know, you might not want to interpret it that way, but it totally could be. We have no partial functions, really, I think. Yeah, it seems okay. Which is better than I usually do. My types look all right. It would have been a little nice to use intmap, but I think I don't care that much about the performance, and I care more about having new types for the two kinds of ints that I'm dealing with in this program, so that I don't forget which is which. And we made two lists, and we unioned them with plus, and yeah. This was just a really fairly small program to have to solve compared to recent days. Actually, the easiest this year, I would say, maybe? Unless you missed the insight about like not simulating each anglerfish individually or lanternfish individually, and actually did that instead of doing it via a map. Because the point is that individual lanternfish are fungible, right? I don't need to treat each of them separately. I can treat them in groups according to their age, and that's kind of like the only that you have to make on solve this puzzle efficiently for any reasonable number of inputs. One kind of fun thing that I might do for a minute here is, let's say I just changed my ages and integers to count to ages and counts to integers. And I think everything should then just work. I shouldn't have to change anything. Yeah, it still compiles. Yeah, so, and what that means is I can then say, we'll define extra credit is a function from input to count. Extra credit is simulate, I don't know, 2000? It should be, actually that's probably too big. That's too big even for big ints, probably. Let's say 512. That's probably okay, right? I don't know, I'm very bad at exponential growth. Let's just say 350. 350. And stack run that. No, hang on, I didn't actually use extra credit at all. I assume this is a very large number. It's not that big. Oh, right, because they only reproduce every 8 days. So we could probably afford 500, right? And so this, I'm fairly sure, is bigger than you could do in an int64, right? So what is max? Oh, I can just ask GHCI, can't I? I'm gonna look it up on Google. What is max bound of int? Like, this is more digits than that. Yes, so this is too big for an int64. And that's you know, Topaz picked a number small enough that you could simulate it with an int64 with no problem. Or not simulate, but solve. But I did want to point out that, you know, in Haskell, it's really, really, really easy to get access to big ints. And really all I had to do was change int here to integer, and my program works for anything you can fit in memory. We could go for 1,000 days, and I bet it would, okay, 10,000 is maybe a bit much. And it'll be like large, but totally manageable, right? So I don't know, I just think that's kind of nice. You know, if you did it in Used I64. Is that what Go calls them, or is that int64? I don't remember. So I predicted it in Go. That's my prediction. And if so, I dare you to do 1,000 days. So anyway, I think we're about done here. It looks like by repeating the key insight enough times, I did give Haper an idea. So hope you enjoy that. Rust. Okay. So there you go. Simulate up to 1,000 if you dare. I don't know. Maybe Rust has really good big-ints. Let's look that up. Rust big-int. How do you use it? Oh, you gotta do a whole bunch of more work. You gotta change all your types. You gotta use different functions. You can't use numeric literals. It's the worst. Yeah, take that. That's why Haskell's the best language. This one trivial little thing is why Haskell is the best language. Okay, we're gonna head out now. Thanks for watching, everyone. Hope you enjoyed, and I will see you tomorrow.